Rory and Granda were at Dr. Nicole's clinic. Granda was nervous and kept moving about. He opened the door for a young mother and her baby. Suddenly,
"You're on fire!"
Your pocket is burning, Granda!
Rory threw a vase of water over Granda. Granda complained to Dr. Nicole that Rory had tried to drown him.
You two always make me laugh. Rory, do you have Granda's prescriptions?
Yes, and I make sure Granda takes his medicine on time.
Great! I'll try to find you a home help to make things easier.
At home, Rory was searching for his homework jotter.
I remember putting it in your school bag while I was throwing the rubbish.
Uh-oh! Granda must have thrown away my homework jotter.
Sure enough, Granda had. At school, Rory told his teacher he had lost his homework jotter.
At least this is a believable excuse. How's Granda? Will he be coming for parents' night?
Of course he will.
Rory and Darren were talking about football when Darren suggested Granda be placed in a home.
Granda would die if he enters a home. I am all that my Granda has, and I need Granda too. Where would I go if Granda is placed in a home?
Parents' night was approaching. Rory wanted Granda to reassure Mrs. Foley he was normal. That night,
Granda, what was my dad like?
He was spoiled. He got whatever he wanted and then threw it away when he didn't want it. He did the same with your mom too. He's not my son. The only son I have is you, Rory. We don't need anybody else.
However, Rory was thinking perhaps he needed somebody. On Parents' Night, when it was Rory and Granda's turn to meet Mrs. Foley,
You do have a moustache. I thought Rory was joking.
Rory felt extremely embarrassed. Suddenly, they smelt smoke in the classroom. Granda's coat was on fire. The fire alarm started ringing. Darren's dad threw water over the fire. From the expression on Mrs. Foley's face, Rory knew their troubles were not over. That week, Val Jessup, a social worker, visited Rory and Granda. She said she would try to get them a home help. A few days later, when Rory stopped by the bakery to get lunch,
There's been a fire at your flats. They took someone away in an ambulance.
Rory immediately ran home. A policeman told him Granda had been sent to the hospital. Granda had started the fire when he left a chip pan on. When Rory entered Granda's room in the hospital, he saw drips, needles and monitors around Granda. Scared, Rory prayed to God for help.
Big man, please listen to my prayer. I'll do anything for Granda if you'll only let him wake up.
Val Jessup came in with news for Rory.
I'm afraid you can't go back to your flat tonight.
Where will I be going?
To the children's home at Castle Street.
Rory's nightmare. The children's home at Castle Street looked scary. Rory was introduced to the children who seemed nice, except for Tess.
Who are you? Why are you sitting in my seat?
Tess went for Rory, and Rory jumped out of the chair. Tess created a fuss and was dragged out of the kitchen. That night, Rory could not sleep as he was worried about Granda and afraid of Tess. The next morning, Val took Rory to the hospital. Rory and Granda hugged each other tightly.
Granda, what happened?
I wanted to cook some chips. I was looking for potatoes and that's the last thing I remember. Anyway, where did you sleep last night? Don't tell me you stayed at Castle Street. You did? I'm getting out of hospital.
Rory had to reassure Granda he would only live at Castle Street until Granda came home. At the flat, Val and Rory found the furniture damaged and the place smelling of smoke. Rory wanted to have the flat painted, but Val told him not to bother. This made Rory worry. How long was he going to stay at Castle Street? As the days passed, Tess seemed to grow angrier with Rory. Rory hoped to leave the children's home. At school, Mrs. Foley asked Rory about his stay at Castle Street. Rory told her about Tess. Darren warned Rory Mrs. Foley might want to foster him.
It could happen. You don't know how long Granda will be in the hospital. Maybe Granda isn't doing as well as you think he is.
Rory felt so afraid that he went straight to the hospital at lunchtime. When he arrived at Granda's room, he saw it was empty.
Granda, where are you?
Rory, what are you doing here?
Where's Granda? He's dead, isn't he?
Granda's not dead. We had to move him elsewhere. Val will take you to see him.
When Val arrived,
Where's Granda? Something's not right.
We had to make a difficult decision, Rory. Granda is not fit enough to come home with you, and he has been moved.
Where?
Ruknada.
Granda never cried, but when Rory entered the ward at Ruknada, he saw Granda crying.
What am I doing here, Rory? This is where they keep old people nobody wants.
I want you, Granda, but they won't let me take you home.
The following days grew worse for Rory. Granda was lost in a world of his own. Rory felt sure Granda was dying inside, so he made a decision. He and Granda would run away. Rory began planning his great escape. Darren suggested Rory and Granda run to his mother's caravan and gave Rory the spare key. On that day, Rory tiptoed into Granda's room.
Have you come back to visit me?
Shh, Granda, I'm here to rescue you.
Rory stuffed Granda's things into the rucksack.
Where are we going, son?
We're going to run away, Granda.
Rory and Granda escaped from Ruknada. When they reached the caravan, Granda realized where they were and laughed joyfully.
You're truly special for doing all this for me.
That night, Rory knew he had done the right thing. The next morning, Granda, looking capable and in charge, prepared breakfast. After breakfast, they went for a walk and reached a pond.
Why don't you fish here, Granda?
That's a good idea.
Rory and Granda spent the afternoon fishing. When Granda managed to catch a fish, they laughed so much they almost did not hear footsteps in the bushes behind them. A man and a boy approached Rory and Granda. They asked Rory a few questions. After they had left,
Tinkers. I don't trust them.
Granda, you can't call them tinkers. It's rude. They're travelers.
Tinkers.
day by day, Granda seemed to be more alert. But the next day,
They know where you are. They're coming. Run.
Rory and Granda quickly packed their things and left the caravan. Just before the main road, Rory heard a police car. He pulled Granda into the bushes and waited.
You run, Rory. I'll surrender myself. That'll keep them happy.
No, Granda. We'll stick together no matter what happens.
The police began to spread out. Suddenly, someone clamped a hand round Rory's mouth. Another man did the same to Granda. Rory realized it was the man whom he had met the other day at the pond.
Don't worry, we are going to help you.
They took Rory and Granda to a caravan. There they saw the boy, Tyrone, and his mother, Ruby.
Why are you helping us?
You would have been caught if we hadn't. We understand your situation. Social workers interfere in our family too.
Rory and Granda were safe for now. The next morning, Rory had breakfast with Tyrone's dad, Sammy.
I'm sorry for my Granda's behavior the other day.
Don't worry about it. He's an old man. I understand.
When Granda joined them, he eyed Sammy suspiciously, but was very pleasant to Ruby. Tyrone switched on the television, and the news was about Rory and Granda. The authorities appealed to Rory and Granda to get in touch.
I'd rather die a free man.
As they travelled, Rory and Tyrone got to know each other better. Even Granda began liking Sammy.
You might get into trouble for helping us.
Not at all. You're not criminals. And it's a free country.
Later, when Rory wanted to pay Ruby for their food,
No, Rory. We're helping you sincerely. You'll need the money for something else.
Rory felt touched and decided never to judge anyone so quickly in future. When they reached their destination, Rory and Granda met Sammy's brother and his family.
We know all about you. The authorities are searching for you.
Don't worry about that tonight. Let's just enjoy ourselves.
They had a good time singing and dancing. When Ruby said she could read fortunes, Granda asked Ruby to read Rory's fortune.
You'll have many adventures, Rory. People who are after you will not catch you, but you will have to go to them because you'll have no choice. You'll also find the thing you're looking for, but first, you'll experience a terrible sadness.
Will Granda be okay?
Ruby did not answer the question. The next morning, they watched the news. The report mentioned that some travellers had left the caravan site the same time Rory and Granda were last seen there. Rory knew they could not stay with Sammy.
Take a train to Glasgow, and our family will meet you there.
Wouldn't people recognize us?
Sit separately and bury your head in a book. No one will notice you.
Sammy drove them to the train station. Everyone felt sad to leave. Granda said he would never call them tinkers again. On the train, Rory and Granda sat separately. However, when Granda kept grinning at Rory, a woman recognized them. They immediately got off at the next stop. While Rory waited for Granda to use the toilet,
I knew it was you! Where's your grandfather? I'll be famous for catching you.
suddenly,
Granda! You've killed him!
He'll be fine. Now, let's get away. We are going to steal a car.
What? Granda, you've just killed someone, and now you want to steal a car.
Nonsense. The boy will be fine. Let's find a car that I can hotwire.
Granda hot-wired an old car and they drove off. Granda drove terribly, but they managed to get on the back roads. Soon, the car began running out of petrol. They had to find an isolated petrol station so that they could hotwire the car again. When they found a suitable place, Rory got down and began searching for the petrol cap.
What are you doing?
I'm helping my uncle fill up the tank.
I'll do it for you. It's my job.
Once the tank had been filled, Rory paid the man and wanted to leave. However,
No, I don't think you'll be going anywhere.
Rory panicked, but the man smiled at him. He said he knew who they were and wanted to help them.
People are looking for you. You won't go far, and your grandfather looks too tired to go anywhere.
The man, Rab, took them to his flat. Granda looked pale and his hands were shaking. He immediately fell asleep. Rory was worried about Granda. Suddenly, he caught the news on television.
Rory and his grandfather might make their way to Rory's father's house in Liverpool.
That's it! I can go to my dad for help.
That night, Rory wedged a chair under the door handle before going to sleep. Although Rab was a nice man, Rory did not want to take any chances. The next morning, Rory heard Rab speaking on the phone. Then,
I've got a plan. The police are looking for the car you stole, and a boy is claiming that Granda assaulted him, although nobody believes him. I'm taking you to meet my girlfriend Annie. I've arranged a line of friends to get you to Liverpool.
Granda was touched by Rab's gesture. They met up with Annie and said goodbye to Rab. Along the way, Granda asked where they were going.
We're going to Liverpool.
Whatever for?
For the scenery, Granda.
Granda grumbled, but Rory avoided giving any explanation. When they arrived at Annie's cousin's house, Granda began grumbling again.
Rory, you should tell Granda.
He'll only get angry, Norma.
At that moment, Granda yelled. Granda had found out why they were going to Liverpool. Granda was so upset that Rory had to promise they would not go to Liverpool. The next morning, Granda looked pale and was wheezing in his sleep.
Granda's too sick to go anywhere. I'm going to town for a while. We'll see how he is when I get back.
They waited for Norma and her daughter to return. Suddenly, the phone rang.
Rory, my mom has been to the police. You've got to run, now!
Rory and Granda took the back road. They climbed a hill and had to run to hide from a police car. Granda began wheezing and looked very tired. Rory saw a bus shelter and took Granda there to rest.
I just need to rest for 5 minutes. After that, I'll be fine.
Rory fell asleep as well. When he woke up, he saw that Granda looked pale and was not breathing. Granda was dead.
Granda! Granda!
Rory panicked and began looking for help.
Please help me! I think my Granda is dead!
Let's go. Alice, call the police.
The man drove Rory back to the bus shelter. They saw Granda lying face down on the ground. The police and ambulance arrived. Rory sat in the police car with another man.
Please don't separate us now. We can't run away anymore.
Don't worry about that. Rory, I'm your dad, Jeff.
Although it was touch and go for a while, Granda survived. Rory and Granda stayed on in Liverpool in a flat nearby Jeff's house and had home helps and care workers. Although Granda's memory and health had worsened since their escape, Rory was not worried. He was happy everything had turned out well.